That's the sound of a big deal. At Wayfair, that sound happens a lot. Dream sofa for half the price? Big deal. New dining table you've been eyeing for months? Big deal. Finally picking up those last few pieces and finishing that bedroom? Now that's a really big deal. Whatever your home needs, Wayfair has the selection, the savings, and over millions of 5-star reviews to back it up. Shop Wayfair.com today before someone else snags your big deal.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
The new Wegovy pill is now available through Weight Watchers. Powerful GLP-1 results in a simple pill at the lowest price available. And with Weight Watchers, you can get doctor support and personalized nutrition programs. See if you qualify at WeightWatchers.com. Ad not reviewed or approved by Novo Nordisk.
Hey friends, welcome to Moments That Matter. I'm your host, Callie Wiley, and I'm so glad you're here. This is the space where we'll talk about real life, the messy, the beautiful, the in-between moments that actually shape us. We'll dive into business, balance, building connections that feel real, growing brands with heart, meeting amazing people, and figuring out how to be our most authentic selves. No filters, no fluff, just honest conversations to help you show up fully in your life and step into the version of you that is already there. So get comfy, grab your coffee, and let's talk about the moments that actually matter.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Moments That Matter podcast. I am super excited about this week's episode, and I feel like I say that every single week, probably because I usually am. But I know that there's been a lot of people that have asked about when this episode was going to come out, and it really did dictate a lot of why this podcast was created and why I do what I do and why I am obsessed with people in general. Like, why do I love people and connection? It's probably because of this topic. We are going to talk about people I met on airplanes, and I know that 98% of people board a plane and put their headphones in before they even sit down. And I'm not that people. But I know that 98% of you are. And that same 98% dread when someone sits down next to you that wants to talk, right? We dread it. And I am the person that you dread. I'm the person that you sit down and I say, hello, how are you today? Because I believe that there is something so special about being sealed in a little metal tube with people that you don't know, that you are now 4 centimeters from. And beyond traveling on that airplane, you would never speak to, right? 98% of the people that you end up sitting by, you would never speak to in a real life situation. They're not your people. They have differing opinions. They're not someone you would hang out with. And I love that. I love that about getting to talk to people on airplanes because it puts this situation where you are in like a very intimate space, getting to talk to someone that you would never otherwise speak with. And airplane travel and airport travel in general is really unique, right? Because everyone's traveling for different reasons. There's always this like same common denominator of like, if something goes wrong on a plane, like you get diverted, there's delays, there's cancellations, you're sitting in the airport 4 hours, you're doing the thing, like from the time you step foot through security until the time you get out of security, you are in it with these people, right? You are in it. You're into the canceled flights, you're into the delayed flights, you're into the weather delays, you're into the diversions. Ooh, you guys, if you've ever been on a diverted flight, you're into the wind when you land in Reno and you have to circle that damn airport 3 times, like you are in it. You're in the turbulence together. And travel is interesting on a plane because people are traveling for so many different reasons, right? You've got people that are traveling for work, vacation, just to go visit people, grief, death. I mean, a variety of things, right? And when I say that I have met some of the most incredible people on airplanes, I'm not exaggerating. I've gotten to hear life stories of people that I would never otherwise hear. And you guys, what's one thing that I always talk about in every podcast? I always talk about getting curious. And when I get on a plane, I get really curious. I want to know who I'm sitting next to. I want to chat about you. I want to know your story. I want to know your journey. I want to know why you're traveling. And I want to talk about it. And I know that that's really not people's jam. And that's okay. And I want to share some of the unique stories that I've come across and the reason why really air travel in general has really restored my faith in humanity. This whole podcast was I had a different podcast before my parents died. And I know I talk a lot about grief and a lot about my journey on that, but really it changed my entire trajectory. It changed my entire life. It changed how I viewed the world. And traveling a lot for death sucks. It sucks, right? Because before my parents died, I really thought that people only traveled for work and vacation. Like that was in my brain, right? And then you travel for death. And I will never forget the day my mom died, and we lived in Phoenix, and my parents are in Northern California, and we had to fly to go see them. We had to fly. My mom died, and now I've got to get on an airplane. And of course, there's weather delays, because why would there not be? There's like one monsoon only over the Phoenix airport, nowhere else, just over the Phoenix airport, which delayed everything by like 8 hours. And the amount of people that were complete strangers that day, that clearly I was unwell. I was not okay. I had to call everybody to let them know my mom had died from the airport, from a gate. And so people saw some stuff. People saw some stuff that we traveled with that day that were strangers, complete strangers. And you get in this situation with people where like you get really intimate with people really quickly, right? You're in a weird little small area at an airport. Then you get on a weird little tube of a plane. And, there was a lot that happened that day that could be a whole podcast episode in itself, but we traveled to Sacramento as the airport we ultimately needed to get to after 8 hours of delays. We had people bring us food at the gate that like, I didn't think I couldn't eat. I didn't want to eat. But people that brought us over like tacos, like, hey, you just look like you need a snack. Like you just need something. I don't know how to help, but here's how I can help you. We had people that were complete strangers. When we landed in Sacramento, the car rental place was closed because it was after midnight. We needed to get to Redding, which is about 3 hours north. A complete stranger who I wish my grief brain could remember what her name was, had traveled with us all day. She had sat at the airport all day. Her and her daughter lived in Chico, was a student there. They drove us to Chico, in the middle of the night to get us to Chico to my aunt's house. And y'all, there are good people in airports. There are good people in crappy situations. There are good people. I will never forget the experience that woman gave us, to just be compassionate and kind. And we had chatted with her a little bit on the plane, and just the kindness around people on airplanes is unreal. And, we experienced the same thing when my dad died, like just people being really compassionate and very kind in that time. And so I've continued to get really curious with people, and some of the people that I've gotten to connect with, it's not just all trauma, right? I've met people that I've gotten to hear their whole journey, their entire stories of their life. I sat with a lady named Betty, from Cincinnati to Chicago, and then Chicago to Phoenix. Her sharing her story, so powerful. She was a green bean farmer out of Ohio, you guys, traveling for a funeral. Sweetest woman ever. Absolutely ever. And just getting to share her journey and her story. And she loved crocheting, and she gave me her turkey recipe because this was in October when I was traveling. And we were talking about Thanksgiving, and just sharing her story for multiple hours on a plane was so incredible. I met a lady, and you guys, she is like the one person I wish I would have gotten her phone number that I didn't. And it was a flight she was going Kansas City to Denver, like had a layover in Denver, headed home to Kansas City, I believe. And she was headed home to Kansas City, layover in Denver. I was flying Reno to Denver. And she had been on like a women's retreat in the Sierra Mountains. And she shared her story of just her grief of losing her sister. And she lost her home in the Pacific Northwest, and she's traveled the world. And just hearing other people's stories, puts things into perspective. And B, stories you might never hear, right? When you see people, you have no idea what people are walking through. You have no idea what people are walking through until you chat with them. And some of the life lessons that I've learned from people have been incredible. Absolutely incredible. And some of the traditions that you hear, I sat next to a guy that was in construction who was saying that when he, like his kids, his wife and his kids always pick him up at the airport, and then his kids get to pick the place they go to dinner. And like, he was like, I always hate it. Like, it's always a weird place, but we go, and it's family tradition. It's something that's really important to us. Like, how cool to get to hear stories from people and their journeys. I've met a guy from Pasadena, one of my trips to Ohio, that was going on a golf trip and just so excited and so full of life, and shared his shopping experience on Temu. Just so many interesting people. I met a gal named Rosemary on a flight back to Reno, one of my trips. And, you know, she had relocated her mom across the world and chatted about her mom's friends all coming over for a sleepover, like things like life stories you just don't get to hear outside of this. I've met really empowering people. I met a gal named Velvet. She was from Redding area. One of the trips that I was flying, Redding, San Francisco, LA, I don't know, somewhere in the world. And she was a female business owner. And there was things that she told me about owning her business that I still use as a leader today. And do I know if any of these people realize the impact they've had on my life? Probably not. I bet none of these people even realize I even exist anymore. But the impact that people have given to me on airplanes and their stories, and how I've been able to take little pieces of people's journeys and resonate with them and connect with people and just learn about humans, has made me so much more accepting in the world, so much more open to people. I sat with a gal named Madeline one trip from Phoenix to Denver. She was headed to Boulder for a work conference, and I'm friends with her on social media now. And just chatting with her, like, you would have thought we had been lifelong friends. We like left baggage claim in Denver, gave each other hugs. You would have thought we had been lifelong friends forever. And it's just so cool when you get to connect with people and chat through what are you doing in life? What is your story? How do you do life? What do you do for work? What's your family like? What are your hobbies? And it can really change everything, you guys. I've had flight anxiety pretty severely after losing my parents. And I love airplanes, first of all. Like, I'm an airplane nut. I have FlightAware on my phone. I love to see the patterns of planes, and I love airplanes. But something has shifted in me when I started traveling after my parents died, that my brain doesn't know the difference between flying for like joy and flying for death. And so my brain automatically thinks I'm flying for death. And I've talked to some people on planes that have just eased some of that anxiety, that have just settled some of that anxiety for me. And when I can get really curious about someone's life and what someone's doing and what they're going on their trips for, it can really change some of that. It can settle that anxiety. It can open up your world to different people. I sat with a guy named Fred from Phoenix to Colorado one trip, and he had been at a Pink concert and worked for Cintas. And we talked about his dog, and he gave me restaurant recommendations in Denver that I went to and enjoyed and loved. And so you're getting to talk to these people about their life and what they do and what makes them tick. And like, it could be innately part of something that helps you tick and helps your world and helps you do things that you really now love. And when you just get to connect like that, it's just something that's so special. You get to chat about where people live, which is so unique. I've talked to people about grief. I met a girl named, her name was Jen. She lived in Battle Mountain in the greater Northern Nevada area. And she had lost her husband, and we talked about grief and talked about moments that matter, and talked about changing that trajectory and changing how things unfold in life, and getting to talk to people. And she shared stories about her husband that had passed away. And you guys, getting to share stories about your story is so powerful. I sat with a girl named Sage recently on a flight who's really passionate about flying and going through flight school, and her parents are in Northern Nevada, and just getting to hear her story. She was another person that I got off the plane and I was like, well, you're my new best friend. I've sat with people that we have sat through awful turbulence that, I probably would have cried if we didn't laugh through it. If we didn't laugh through it. There was a guy named Luke, one of my trips awful turbulence, you guys, clearly I ask people their names too, because I want to know your name. If I'm sitting with you, I want to know who I'm sitting with. Awful turbulence. And it was almost comical, because the pilot was like, this is going to be terrible. And then it was, and then it was terrible. And when you have people to talk through life with and just chat through some of that, it eases that anxiety. I promise it eases some of that anxiety. I've sat with just different people along the way. I sat with a guy named Johnny who's out of Nashville that was a physical therapist and learned his story. You guys, there's something so powerful about hearing other people's stories when it's someone you would not normally talk to or otherwise not be in the same room with. And it can be so fascinating when you can start to have meaningful conversations with strangers. Y'all, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. The world has been really nasty lately, and people have been attacking other people for their political views and their cultural differences and their religion and all these different things. And when you can find common ground with a stranger, it might make you softer to the world, and it might make you navigate with a lot more empathy when you can say, hey, I met this person that was different than me and we had a meaningful conversation. But y'all, you got to be curious. You have to be curious. You have to be open. If you go into this argumentative or you go into this not wanting to chat with people, you're not going to get the same perspective of it. And every single time I board a flight and I get to leave that plane and know someone's story and know what brings them joy, 98% of times someone's showing me pictures of their dog, their kid, their grandkid, their spouse. It's so cool to watch people share their stories and hear different perspectives, because you guys, some of these stories have changed my life. They've changed how I show up as a leader. I've talked to different people in business, and it's changed how I show up in the world. I've talked to people that are also traveling for grief or trauma. It's helped my anxiety. It's helped me feel less alone. It's helped me feel like what I'm doing is not insane. It's helped me feel seen. I've talked to people about their careers, and I've gotten to hear and learn about different careers that I've never heard of. I've gotten to hear about where people are from, where they live, what their life is like. And it has made me so empathetic and so accepting and so loving to different types of people. And when you can just navigate with more empathy and more understanding because you're curious, I promise, you're going to navigate life with less anger. You're going to navigate life with less animosity. You're going to navigate life with more kindness and more experience around the world. And that's when stuff gets really powerful. When you get to know people and their stories, because people become real people instead of just this idea or just this belief. You get to know people for people. And when we get to know people for people, we start to act with more kindness, and we start to share more, and we start to navigate more realistically, right? Like, the world already has enough hate. And if there's one thing I'm going to do, it's that I'm going to spread love and I'm going to spread kindness. And I know that sounds really hippy dippy, but y'all, in a world that we're living in right now, the world could use a little kindness. It could use a little compassion, and it could use a little understanding. And when you take the time to get to know people, you're going to understand people differently. And I really believe that when you get shoved into this little tiny metal tube, there is power around the ability to be vulnerable. And a lot of people have anxiety around travel or they're hyped for vacation. So they just they're out of their world a little bit, right? Because they're just like, I'm on vacation now, so I could be a different person. And it can lead to really deep connections in a very short amount of time. You guys, like the connections that I've made with some total strangers, learned their whole life story. Now we're hugging and baggage claim, because of this ability to be in a vulnerable situation. I was on a flight. Oh gosh, this was like 3 or 4 years ago, probably now, that they kept talking about diversions. The weather in Phoenix was terrible. We're going to get diverted. We're going to get diverted. We're going to get diverted. And y'all, the quickness that I came to, I'm going to make a friend on this flight that's going to get me home tonight on a rented vehicle. We are renting a car together. Because suddenly you're like, we have something in common, and it's our desire to get home. It's our desire to get back to our families. And when you can problem solve with a stranger, y'all, you're going to get connected quickly. I've talked religion on planes. I've talked politics on planes from just listening to people. But y'all have to go in undefensive. You can't go in knowing that you're going to say you're right and you're taking them down and you're going to be the correct person. Listen and get curious. Now, because every episode I talk about collecting introverts, and every episode I know I've got my introverted listeners on here that are looking on how, right? If you're extroverted, I know you know how to initiate a conversation on a plane. But if you are introverted or this is way out of your comfort zone, I want to give you some ideas of how to initiate conversation. Let's start with smiling at people. Why do we board planes and we instantly put our head down and we are like, it is survival of the fittest out there. You're like, I got to avoid eye contact with anyone. Hey, guess what? You're going to be sitting on this plane, depending on where you're going, for hours next to someone. What if you smiled at people? What a concept, you guys. I know that sounds really brash and kind of rude, but smiling at people is going to go a long way. It's okay to make eye contact with people when they're boarding. It is. You don't have to look down and act like we are angry. Like, people act like prisoners when they board planes. Make eye contact with people. It's okay to smile. When someone sits next to you, you should say hello. You guys, someone just sat 4 millimeters away from you. You're in a very close proximity for a long time. Say hello. Say hello to the person sitting next to you. Say hello. Now, my lead-in for almost always is, hey, where are you traveling home? Are you traveling home, or is this, where's your destination? It opens up conversation. It opens up really quick conversation. They will say, nope, I'm headed to Kansas City. I'm headed to Florida. This is just a layover. I'm headed here. Oh, I do live in Northern Nevada. Oh my gosh, I live in Northern Nevada too. What part of town are you in? What do you do for work? What are you traveling for? Ask questions. You guys, if you've not been listening to the podcast, go back to episode 1 and work your way through. Every single episode, I'm going to talk to you about getting curious. I'm going to talk to you about asking questions. I'm going to talk to you about getting curious about the people around you. And if you just start with a smile, a hello, a hey, where are you traveling to today? It can open up more conversation. When I was traveling a ton back to Redding, you guys, Redding has the world's smallest airport in the world, I swear. Tiny airport. The number of people that I was able to talk to of like, oh, you're headed to Redding? Like, that's your hometown or that's where you live. The connections that we could find around restaurants that we loved, people that we knew, the same school that we went to, people that knew my parents, people that went to the same things, did the same things. Now you have a common ground. Oh, you're flying to Redding? Oh my gosh, I love Wilda's. Have you ever eaten there? Now they say, yes, awesome. Now you are deep down the rabbit hole of everything that's delicious at Wilda's. No, I've never been there. What do you love about it? Well, now I'm going to sell you on that you need to go get a Buddha bowl because it is the best thing in the world. But finding common ground with strangers can just come from asking someone where they're traveling to. Ask someone why they're traveling. Now, I'm going to prepare you because when people ask me why I was traveling and I said my mom died, ooh, people got weird. People got really weird. It's really aggressive to say that, right? I had to do this when my dad died. I had to do this when Christina died. Why are you traveling? Oh, I'm going to go say goodbye to my friend of quite some time who's dying with cancer and on hospice. You have to be prepared if you're going to give someone that answer to have a conversation about it, because, someone might come back with, oh my gosh, I've done that flight and it sucks. Tell me about your friend. And the guy that I sat next to on that flight was an angel, and he was traveling for work, and I don't remember his name. It was a blurry day. But I sat next to him and he said, oh my God, I've done the same flight. Tell me about your friend. What's her name? I said, well, her name is Christina, and let me tell you about her. And I got to share Christina's story with a stranger. And I hope that it had the same impact on him that it had on me. But when we get to start talking about people and sharing stories, it just builds a different level of human connection. And I will stand firm that I think talking to people on airplanes can change your life. I think that it could change the world. I think it could change how we look at people and how we look at travel. I think it could change how we have more understanding for people because you're sitting next to people that you've never talked to before, that you would never talk to before. And y'all, when I fly to Reno a lot, and it's a small airport with not a lot of flights. And I end up sitting with, I fly with people regularly now that I don't hang out with otherwise, but I see them at the airport and now I know who they are because y'all, if you do a regular flight somewhere, anywhere, it's going to be the same people traveling. And so I've gotten to know people that now they're like my travel friends because we've started to know each other through just traveling. And I would encourage you to get really curious and open on the next time that you have a flight, or maybe you travel by train or by subway or wherever you live. Get curious about this opportunity to connect and discover people and understand people and understand their stories. And you guys, I know that if you know me in real life, I get a lot of crap for this. Like the second I land, I get 5 or 6 text messages at minimum of, hey, who'd you sit with and what's their story today? And what I love about that is I know a lot of people are joking, but the cool thing is I've gotten to know really incredible humans that now I get to share their story. I get to share their story and I get to share their journey. and I get to share really fun things about people. And that's really powerful stuff. It's really powerful stuff. So if you've connected with someone on an airplane, I want to hear your story. I want to hear about the connections that you've built. I want to hear about what's changed for you. I want to hear about people that you've come across. Maybe you've run into someone you already knew. I had a flight in from Reading to LA that I got to sit with my friend Ruth that I had not seen in years. And we were on the same flight, and small airport, so we got to change our seats. We got to sit together. And I got to connect with her for the first time in years and just hear about what she was currently doing and hear her life. Like, just getting to talk to people uninterrupted. You guys, you can't text, call, scroll as much as now there's Wi-Fi on most planes, but it's different. It's different. So get really curious to be open with people, but connect with me. Let me know if you've met people on planes. Let me know if you think I'm insane, because I know a lot of you do. And I know a lot of people think it's nuts, but tell me that. I want to know, and because I want to talk to you about why. But have more conversations with people, learn their stories, learn their experience, and see what you can take from that. See how that changes your life, and see how it changes how open you get with the world around you. Have a great day. I'll see you next week. And I hope that next time you travel, you're a little more open to taking your headphones off and chatting with the person next to you.